It was February 12th, 2026, at 2:47 a.m., when a dream so vivid and terrifying drove me to an alpine plateau above tree line in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado, and there, surrounded by windswept snowfields that glowed an otherworldly blue beneath a moon so bright it cast shadows across the frozen tundra, Jesus appeared before me with tears streaming down his face that froze into crystals of light before they could fall, and he spoke words that shattered everything I thought I knew. Jonathan, in 7 days before I return for my bride, I will send warnings that most of my church will miss entirely. Heaven has already marked the chosen, not by their attendance, not by their theology, not by their reputation, but by something the modern church has completely forgotten. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past, some will ignore it, but you've been marked. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I know. But before you click away, before you dismiss this as another sensational claim, I need you to understand something. I didn't ask for this encounter. I didn't climb to 13,000 feet in the middle of a February night because I was seeking some mystical experience. I was driven there by something I cannot fully explain, a compulsion so strong that I found myself pulling on thermal layers at 1:30 in the morning, driving mountain roads in darkness and hiking the final 2 miles by headlamp through knee-deep snow to reach this desolate, sacred place where the air is so thin each breath burns your lungs and the silence is so complete you can hear your own heartbeat echoing in your ears. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Many of you know me as the actor who portrays Jesus in The Chosen. That role has been the greatest honor and the heaviest burden of my life. For years now, I've studied his words, his mannerisms, his heart. I've prayed through every scene, wept through every take, and felt the weight of representing the Son of God to millions of viewers worldwide. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened on that alpine plateau in the hours before dawn on February 12th. Before I continue, I need to ask something of you. If you're watching this and you need prayer, drop your request in the comments right now. I read them. I pray over them. This isn't just content to me. This is ministry. This is family. This is the body of Christ gathering in a digital age that our grandparents never could have imagined. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I need you to do that now. Not for me, not for algorithms, but because what I'm about to share over these next few nights needs to reach the true believers, the remnant, those who still have ears to hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. YouTube doesn't show these messages to everyone. Only those who subscribe and engage will see what's coming in parts 2, 3, and 4. Don't miss what Jesus is about to reveal. Now let me take you back to that plateau. The hike up had been brutal. At 51 years old, I'm in decent shape, but climbing through snow at high altitude in the middle of the night tests every muscle and every assumption you have about your own strength. My headlamp carved a small tunnel of light through absolute darkness. The wind, that relentless alpine wind that never truly stops, cut through every layer I wore, finding skin at my wrists, my neck, the small gap between my hat and collar. The temperature had dropped to somewhere around 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and with the wind chill, it felt closer to 20 below. Why was I going up there? The dream. I'd fallen asleep around 10 p.m. after a long day of prayer and preparation for an upcoming chosen event, but at 1:15 a.m. I jolted awake with an image seared into my mind, a vast plateau above the trees, moonlit and empty, and a figure standing in the center of it with arms outstretched. I heard, and I mean audibly heard, though whether with my physical ears or spiritual ears I cannot say, a voice that simply said, "Come up higher. What I'm about to show you, the church needs to hear before it's too late." I've learned over the years not to ignore these moments. So I went. The tree line ended abruptly, as it always does in the Rockies. One moment you're surrounded by the twisted, wind-tortured forms of bristlecone pines, and the next you emerge onto an open expanse that feels like another planet. The plateau stretched before me for what seemed like miles, a gently rolling landscape of snow-covered tundra, scattered boulders the size of cars, and patches of exposed rock where the wind had scoured away every flake of snow. Above, the sky was so clear and the moon so bright that I could see the individual peaks of surrounding mountains 30 miles away, their snow-covered faces glowing like they were lit from within. I turned off my headlamp. I didn't need it. The moonlight was that intense, and that's when I saw him. He was standing about 50 yards away, near a massive boulder that jutted from the snow like the prow of a ship. At first I thought it was another hiker, though what kind of madman would be up here at this hour? But as my eyes adjusted, I realized this figure was luminous, not glowing like a flashlight, but emanating light the way the moon does, a soft radiance that seemed to push back the darkness without creating harsh shadows. My heart began to pound so hard I could feel it in my throat. My hands started shaking, and not from the cold. I knew who it was. Somehow, I knew. I started walking toward him, my boots crunching through the crusty snow, each step an act of faith and terror combined. As I got closer, I could see his face, the face I'd studied for years, the face I'd tried to honor in my portrayal, but infinitely more real, more present, more overwhelming than anything I'd ever imagined. His eyes held galaxies. His expression carried both infinite love and infinite sorrow, and he was weeping. Lord, my voice came out as barely a whisper, stolen by the wind. He turned fully toward me, and the weight of his gaze nearly drove me to my knees. Jonathan, he said, and his voice was like nothing I can adequately describe. It was the wind and the silence and the mountains and my own heartbeat all at once. Thank you for coming. What I'm about to show you will be hard to hear, harder still to share, but it must be spoken. I was trembling now, and not from the cold. I'm listening, Lord. He gestured to the vast expanse around us, the endless plateau, the distant peaks, the ocean of stars above. Look at this place. Beautiful, isn't it? But also dangerous. Deadly even to those unprepared. The unprepared die up here, Jonathan. Every year they die because they don't respect the mountain, don't prepare properly, don't recognize the signs of danger until it's too late. I nodded, not sure where he was going, but hanging on every word. My church, he continued, and fresh tears spilled down his cheeks, freezing into tiny crystals that caught the moonlight, is like a group of hikers about to face the storm of all storms, and they are catastrophically unprepared. Not because I haven't warned them, not because the signs aren't clear, but because they've been taught to ignore the very thing that will determine whether they're taken or left behind. The wind picked up suddenly, howling across the plateau with such force that I had to lean into it to keep my balance. Snow began to swirl around us in ghostly spirals, and the temperature seemed to drop another 10 degrees in seconds. In 7 days before I return for my bride, Jesus said, his voice cutting through the wind with perfect clarity, I will send specific warnings, signs in the heavens and signs on the earth, supernatural encounters and natural disasters, dreams and visions and undeniable manifestations of my presence. But here's what breaks my heart, Jonathan. Here's what you need to tell them. Most of my church will miss every single sign because they're looking for the wrong things. What do you mean, Lord? I asked, my teeth starting to chatter despite my layers. He stepped closer to me, and the warmth that radiated from his presence was like standing near a fire. The snow around his feet had melted, revealing the brown tundra grass beneath. They think the rapture is about escaping. They think it's about being rescued from tribulation. They think it's a reward for correct theology or faithful church attendance, but they've forgotten what I actually said. He raised his hand, and suddenly the air around us shimmered. I saw, and I mean literally saw, as clearly as I'm seeing you now, a vision overlaid on the physical landscape. The plateau was filled with people, thousands of them, all dressed in modern clothes, all looking up at the sky expectantly. They were singing worship songs, raising their hands, declaring their faith. They looked like any contemporary church service you'd see on a Sunday morning. Watch, Jesus said softly. In the vision, the sky began to split open. Light poured through, brilliant and terrible. A trumpet sound echoed across the mountains, so loud it seemed to shake the very ground. And then, people began to rise, but not everyone, not even most. I watched in horror as maybe 1 in 10 people lifted off the ground, their faces radiant with joy and wonder. The rest, the vast majority, remained earthbound, their expressions shifting from expectation to confusion to dawning horror as they realized they'd been left behind. No, I whispered. No, Lord, that can't be right. These are believers. They're worshiping you. They're worshiping a version of me they created, he interrupted, and his voice carried an edge of righteous anger that made me flinch. They're worshiping a Jesus who makes no demands, who requires no sacrifice, who promises comfort without cross, crown without crucifixion. They've been taught that grace means they can live however they want, believe whatever feels good, and still be guaranteed a seat on the rescue flight. The vision faded, and we were alone again on the windswept plateau, the silence somehow more deafening than the noise of the vision had been. But that's not how it works, he continued. It never has been. I told them clearly, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father. I told them about the 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish. I told them about the wheat and the tares growing together until the harvest. I told them about the narrow gate and the wide road. But they don't want to hear it. It's not comfortable. It's not marketable. It doesn't fill stadiums or sell books. I was shaking now and not from the cold. Lord, what is it? What's the thing they're missing? What determines who's taken and who's left? He looked at me with such intensity that I felt like he was seeing every moment of my 51 years, every choice, every secret, every hidden compromise. The mark, he said. Heaven has already marked the chosen, not with a physical mark, but with something visible to the spiritual realm. And in those 7 days before I return, I will make that mark visible even to human eyes for those who know how to look. What mark? I asked desperately. What is it? Tomorrow night, he said, and his form began to fade like morning mist. Come back here. Come to the same place. What I show you next will answer that question, but it will cost you everything to share it. The church won't want to hear it. You'll be called a heretic, a fearmonger, a false prophet, but you must speak it anyway, because time is shorter than anyone realizes. Wait! I called out as he continued to fade. How will I know? How will people know if they have the mark? His voice came from everywhere and nowhere, already more echo than presence. The mark is formed by what you do in the secret place when no one is watching, when there's no audience, no applause, no recognition. The mark is formed by the choices you make when obedience costs you everything and disobedience would cost you nothing in earthly terms. The mark is formed by whether you love me more than comfort, more than reputation, more than life itself. Tomorrow night, I'll show you exactly what I mean. And then he was gone. I stood alone on that frozen plateau as the first hints of dawn began to lighten the eastern sky from black to deep purple. The wind had died down to a whisper. The temperature was rising slightly as morning approached. Everything looked normal, natural, explainable, but I was not the same person who had climbed up here 3 hours earlier. I made my way back down the mountain as the sun rose, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. My mind was reeling, trying to process what I'd seen and heard. The vision of that crowd, believers left behind, haunted every step. The tears on Jesus' face, freezing into crystals of light, were seared into my memory. And his words about the mark, about the secret place, about the 7 days of warning before the rapture, they echoed in my mind with the weight of absolute truth. I'm sharing this with you now because I believe you're meant to hear it. The algorithm didn't randomly show you this video. You weren't just scrolling and happened to click. You've been marked, or you're being called to receive the mark before it's too late. And over the next 3 nights, I'm going back to that plateau. I'm going to receive the rest of this revelation, and I'm going to share every word of it with you, no matter the cost. Tomorrow night, I'll tell you about the second encounter, when Jesus showed me exactly what the mark looks like and how it's formed. What he revealed was so contrary to modern church teaching that I wept for hours afterward, but it aligned perfectly with Scripture, the Scripture we've been ignoring because it's too hard, too demanding, too costly. Comment below right now. I'm marked if you're committing to watch all 4 parts of this message. I need to know who's serious about this, who's willing to hear the hard truth instead of comfortable lies. And subscribe if you haven't already, because YouTube will hide parts 2, 3, and 4 from you unless you do. The clock is ticking, the warnings are coming, and most of the church is catastrophically unprepared. I'll see you tomorrow night with part 2, when Jesus reveals the shocking truth about what the mark actually is and why the modern church has completely missed it. Until then, get alone with God. Turn off the distractions. Ask him point blank, do I have the mark? Am I truly ready? And be prepared for an answer that might shatter everything you thought you knew about your own salvation. This is Jonathan Roumie, and I'm speaking to you from the other side of an encounter that changed everything. The mountain is calling you higher. Will you answer? It was February 13th, 2026 at 3:15 a.m. when I returned to that same alpine plateau, and this time the wind was so fierce it nearly knocked me off my feet as I crested the tree line. The gusts carrying ice crystals that stung my face like tiny needles, and the moon, now 1 day past full, cast everything in stark relief, creating shadows so deep they looked like tears in the fabric of reality itself. I'd barely slept the previous day. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that vision of the crowd, saw the confusion and horror on the faces of those left behind, heard Jesus' voice saying, "They're worshiping a version of me they created." The comments on yesterday's video had been overwhelming. Thousands of you wrote, "I'm marked," in the comments. Thousands more shared your prayer requests, your fears, your desperate questions. But there were also the critics. Oh, were there critics? False prophet, fear-mongering. This isn't the Jesus I know. That last one cut the deepest because it proved exactly what Jesus had told me. We've created a Jesus in our own image, comfortable and non-threatening, and we've rejected the real one who demands everything. I want to address something before I continue with what happened last night. I'm 51 years old. I'm single. I don't have children. For years, I've wrestled with whether that makes me less qualified to speak about spiritual matters, whether my life choices or circumstances somehow disqualify me from hearing from God. But as I climbed that mountain again in the pre-dawn darkness, as my lungs burned and my legs screamed and the wind tried to push me back down, I heard his voice in my spirit. I called you to this moment precisely because you have nothing to lose, no family to protect, no reputation to preserve beyond mine, no earthly treasures that would make you soften my words. You're free to speak the truth without compromise. So that's what I'm doing. And tonight, what he showed me was even harder than the first night. The hike up was more difficult this time. The wind was relentless, coming in gusts that had to be 50 or 60 miles per hour, strong enough that I had to stop several times and crouch behind boulders just to catch my breath and avoid being blown off the trail. The temperature had dropped even further. My phone's weather app showed -8 degrees Fahrenheit before I put it away to preserve the battery. At this altitude, in this cold, with this wind, I was pushing the limits of what's safe for solo winter hiking. But I had to go. I had to know. What is the mark? How is it formed? And most importantly, do I have it? When I finally reached the plateau, gasping for air in the thin atmosphere, I saw him immediately. He was standing in the exact same spot as the night before, near that massive boulder, but this time he wasn't alone. There were, I don't know how else to describe them, presences around him, not fully visible, more like distortions in the air, like heat waves rising from summer pavement, but it was winter and freezing, and these were clearly spiritual beings. Angels, I assumed, though they didn't look like the greeting card versions we're used to. They felt ancient and powerful and utterly focused on Jesus. "Jonathan," he said as I approached, and again his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, from the wind, from the mountains, from inside my own chest. "You came back." "Of course I came back, Lord," I said, my voice hoarse from the cold and the altitude. "I have to know. What is the mark? How do people get it?" He smiled, but it was a sad smile, the kind you give someone when you're about to tell them something that will hurt but must be said. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a flat rock near the boulder. "This will take time, and what I'm about to show you will require all your strength to witness." I sat, grateful to be out of the direct wind. The rock was ice cold even through my insulated pants, but I barely noticed. Every fiber of my being was focused on him. Jesus looked out across the plateau toward the east where the first faint hints of dawn were still hours away. "The mark," he began, "is formed in the secret place. It's formed in the moments when you choose me over everything else, when no one is watching, when there's no reward except my approval. It's formed through what I call the three crucifixions, the death of comfort, the death of reputation, and the death of self-will." He turned back to me, and his eyes held such depths of sorrow and love combined that I felt tears freezing on my own cheeks. "Let me show you what I mean." He raised his hand, and suddenly the air shimmered again like it had the night before. But this time, instead of seeing a crowd on the plateau, I was seeing into homes, into lives, into the secret moments that define a soul. The first vision was of a woman, maybe 40 years old, attractive, successful looking. I could see her in her bedroom early morning, alarm going off. She reached over and hit snooze, then rolled back over. I heard Jesus' voice narrating. She knows I'm calling her to prayer. She feels the tug every morning, but her comfort is more important. Just 10 more minutes, she tells herself. Just today. Tomorrow I'll get up early. But tomorrow never comes. The scene shifted, and I saw the same woman at church on Sunday, hands raised in worship, tears streaming down her face, singing about surrender and devotion. She looked absolutely sincere. She felt sincere. But Jesus said quietly, "She worships me in public but won't sacrifice 10 minutes of sleep for me in private. The mark is not forming." "But Lord," I protested, "she's at church. She's worshiping. She clearly loves you." "Does she?" he interrupted, and his tone was gentle but firm. "Or does she love the feeling of worship? Does she love the community, the music, the emotional experience? Because love isn't a feeling, Jonathan. Love is a choice, made repeatedly, especially when it costs you something, especially in the secret place where no one sees. The vision shifted again. This time I saw a man, younger, maybe 30, sitting at his computer late at night. His wife and kids were asleep. He was alone. And I watched as he navigated to websites he shouldn't visit, as he gave in to temptations he'd promised God he'd resist. I saw the shame on his face afterward, saw him pray for forgiveness, saw him genuinely repent. He'll be at church on Sunday too, Jesus said. He'll serve in the children's ministry, he'll lead a small group, he'll have a reputation as a strong believer, but in the secret place, in the moments when no one is watching, he chooses sin over me, again and again and again. He repents, yes. He feels bad, yes. But he doesn't actually change. The mark is not forming. I was starting to understand, and it terrified me. Lord, are you saying that these people won't be raptured, that they'll be left behind? I'm saying that the rapture isn't about escaping tribulation, he replied, his voice heavy with emotion. It's about being ready to meet me face to face. It's about being transformed into my image. It's about becoming the kind of person who can stand in my presence without being consumed. And that transformation happens in the secret place through the daily choice to die to yourself and live for me. The wind picked up again, howling across the plateau with renewed fury. Snow began to fall, not gently but in horizontal sheets driven by the gale. The temperature plummeted. I pulled my hood tighter and hunched against the cold, but Jesus stood there completely unaffected, his presence radiating warmth that kept me from freezing despite the conditions. Let me show you what the mark actually looks like, he said. He gestured, and one of those angelic presences moved forward, becoming more visible. It was massive, easily 9 feet tall, with features that were both beautiful and terrifying. The angel held something in its hands, a scroll, glowing with golden light. These are the names of the marked ones, Jesus said, the ones who will be taken. Look. The angel unrolled the scroll, and I saw names written in light, thousands upon thousands of them, stretching beyond what I could see. But next to each name was something else, images, like living photographs, showing moments from each person's life. Jesus pointed to one. This woman, he said, and I saw a middle-aged woman in a modest apartment, on her knees at 4 a.m. praying. Not eloquent prayers, not impressive prayers, just honest, desperate communion with God. She's been doing this for 30 years. Every morning, before work, before her day begins, she meets with me. No one knows. Her church doesn't know. Her family doesn't know. She's never been asked to speak, never been given a platform, never been recognized. But she has the mark because she's chosen me over comfort, day after day after day in the secret place. He pointed to another name. This man. And I saw a businessman in an expensive suit, sitting in his office with the door closed. Someone had just offered him a deal that would make him millions, but it required a small ethical compromise, something no one would ever know about. I watched as he picked up the phone and said, I can't do it. I'm sorry, but I can't. I saw the confusion on the other person's face, saw the deal fall through, saw the man's company struggle financially because of that choice. He chose me over success, Jesus said, over reputation, over security, over everything the world values. The mark is forming. Vision after vision, name after name. A teenager who turned off a movie when it got inappropriate, even though she was alone and no one would know. A pastor who resigned from a megachurch because they asked him to soften his preaching, choosing obscurity over influence. A mother who forgave her abusive father in private, with no witnesses, no applause, no recognition, just obedience to my command to forgive. Do you see the pattern? Jesus asked me. The mark is formed through secret obedience, through choosing me when it costs you everything and no one is watching, through dying to yourself daily, hourly, moment by moment. It's not about big public displays of faith. It's about the small, hidden choices that no one sees but me. I was weeping now, and not just from the cold. Lord, I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I've been faithful enough in the secret place. I've compromised. I've chosen comfort. That's why I'm showing you this now, he interrupted gently. That's why I'm giving these warnings. There's still time, Jonathan. Not much, but enough. Enough for you, enough for everyone watching this to start forming the mark through radical obedience in the secret place. The visions faded, and we were alone again on the plateau. The storm was intensifying. Lightning began to flash in the distance, which is rare in winter, but not unheard of at high altitude. Thunder rolled across the mountains, echoing off the peaks, like the voice of God himself. "Let me show you one more thing," Jesus said, his voice barely audible above the wind. "Let me show you what happens to those without the mark." I didn't want to see it. God help me, I didn't want to see it, but I had to. I had to know what was at stake. He raised his hand again, and the vision that appeared was the most horrifying thing I've ever witnessed. I saw the earth after the rapture. I saw the chaos, the confusion, the terror. But worse than that, I saw the churches, still full, still meeting, still singing worship songs. And I saw people convincing themselves that they hadn't been left behind, that the rapture hadn't happened, that those who disappeared had been deceived or taken by aliens or any explanation other than the truth. "They'll create new theology to explain away their absence of the mark," Jesus said, and his voice was breaking. "They'll say the rapture is still coming, that this was something else. They'll say that God is too loving to leave anyone behind. They'll say that their good works and church attendance and correct theology are enough, but they'll be wrong, and by the time they realize it, the door will be closed." I saw a specific church, large, modern, with excellent production values. The pastor was preaching about how the disappearances were a satanic deception, how the real believers were those who remained, how they needed to stay strong and not be fooled. And the congregation was eating it up, nodding along, finding comfort in the lie because the truth was too terrible to face. "No," I whispered. "No, Lord, please. There has to be another way. There has to be." "There is another way," he said firmly. "That's why I'm sending these warnings. That's why I'm speaking through you and through others who will listen. In the 7 days before I return, I will make one final push to wake up my church. I will send signs they cannot ignore, encounters they cannot explain away, warnings so clear that only the willfully blind will miss them. But even then, most will reject it because it requires them to admit they've been wrong, to admit they've been living for themselves instead of for me, to admit that their comfortable Christianity was never Christianity at all." The lightning was getting closer now, striking peaks that couldn't have been more than a few miles away. The thunder was deafening, the wind was screaming, and in the midst of it all, Jesus stood there weeping, his tears falling like rain. "I don't want to leave anyone behind," he said, and the anguish in his voice was unbearable. "I died for all of them. I paid the price for every sin, but I cannot take those who refuse to be transformed. I cannot bring into my Father's house those who love the world more than they love me. I cannot rapture those who worship a false version of me that they created for their own comfort." He stepped closer to me, placing his hand on my shoulder. The warmth that radiated from his touch was like fire, burning away every pretense, every excuse, every comfortable lie I'd been telling myself. "Tomorrow night," he said, "I will show you the final piece. I will show you exactly what those 7 days before the rapture will look like, what signs to watch for, and how people can know with certainty whether they have the mark or not. But I warn you, Jonathan, what I show you tomorrow will be the hardest of all. It will require you to speak words that will make you hated. It will cost you friendships, opportunities, maybe even your career. Are you willing?" I thought about my life. 51 years old, single, no children, no wife to protect, no family to provide for. I thought about the chosen, about the platform it's given me, about how speaking these truths could cost me everything I've worked for. I thought about the comfortable path, the easy path, the path of softening the message just enough to keep everyone happy. And then I looked into his eyes, those eyes that held galaxies, those eyes that wept for a lost and dying world, those eyes that had looked at me from across 2,000 years ago and said, "It is finished." "Yes, Lord," I said, my voice steady despite my fear. "I'm willing, whatever it costs. I'm willing." He smiled then, a real smile full of joy and pride. "That's the mark forming, Jonathan. That choice you just made in this secret place with no witnesses but me and the angels. That's how it's formed. That's what I'm looking for." The storm began to subside. The wind died down to a whisper. The lightning moved off into the distance. And as the first hints of dawn began to lighten the eastern sky, Jesus began to fade. "Tomorrow night," he said, his voice already becoming an echo. "Same place, same time. Be ready. What I show you will change everything." And then he was gone, and I was alone on the plateau as the sun rose, painting the snow in shades of orange and pink and gold. I made my way down the mountain as the world woke up around me. Birds began to sing. The wind became gentle, Everything looked normal, peaceful, beautiful. But I knew the truth now. I knew what was coming. I knew what was at stake. And I knew that most of the church had no idea. Listen to me carefully. If you're watching this, you need to ask yourself right now, what choices am I making in the secret place? When no one is watching, when there's no audience, no applause, no recognition, am I choosing Jesus or am I choosing comfort? Am I choosing obedience or am I choosing the easy path? The mark isn't formed in church on Sunday morning. It's formed at 4 a.m. when you choose prayer over sleep. It's formed when you turn off that movie, close that website, walk away from that compromise. It's formed when you forgive in private, when you give in secret, when you obey even when it costs you everything. Comment below right now. I choose the secret place. If you're committing to radical obedience starting today, not tomorrow, not next week, today, right now, this moment. And if you haven't subscribed, do it now. Tomorrow night, part 3 will reveal the 7-day timeline before the rapture, the specific signs to watch for, and the final test that will separate the marked from the unmarked. You cannot afford to miss it. I'm going back up that mountain tomorrow night at 3:15 a.m. I'm going to receive the final revelation, and then I'm going to share it with you, no matter what it costs me. Because time is running out, the warnings are coming, and most of the church is still asleep. This is Jonathan Roumie, and I'm speaking to you from the secret place where the mark is formed. Will you meet me there? Will you choose the hard path, the narrow gate, the daily death that leads to life? Or will you choose comfort and wake up one day to find that you've been left behind? The choice is yours, but you have to make it in the secret place where no one is watching but Him. I'll see you tomorrow night for part 3, when Jesus reveals the timeline, the signs, and the final test. Until then, get alone with God. Turn off everything and ask Him, do I have the mark? Then listen, really listen, and be prepared to do whatever He tells you, no matter the cost. The mountain is calling you higher, the secret place is waiting, and the clock is ticking. It was February 14th, 2026 at 3:15 a.m. when I made the climb for the third night, and this time the mountain itself seemed to be groaning, the wind carrying sounds that were almost like voices, like warnings, like the very rocks crying out what the church refused to hear. And as I crested the tree line onto that now familiar plateau, I saw something that stopped me dead in my tracks. The entire sky was alive with the aurora borealis, green and purple curtains of light dancing across the heavens in a display that shouldn't have been visible this far south. And standing in the center of it all was Jesus, His form blazing with glory so intense I had to shield my eyes, and His first words shattered the night. Tonight I show you the 7 days. Tonight you see what most will miss. Tonight you learn the final test that separates the marked from the unmarked. And Jonathan, tonight will cost you everything to share. I want to be honest with you about something before I continue. After I posted part 2 yesterday, I lost 3 major opportunities: a speaking engagement canceled, a podcast interview pulled, a ministry partnership dissolved. The message was the same in each case. We love you, Jonathan, but this message is too extreme, too divisive, too fear-based. Can't you soften it? Can't you focus on God's love instead of judgment? And I was tempted. God help me. I was tempted. At 51 years old, opportunities don't come as frequently as they once did. My career, my platform, my ability to reach people, it all feels more fragile now. Part of me wanted to call them back, to explain that I'd been misunderstood, to find a way to make the message more palatable. But then I remembered His eyes. I remembered His tears. I remembered the vision of those left behind, and I knew I couldn't soften what He'd told me to speak. I couldn't trade truth for comfort, not even my own comfort. So I climbed that mountain for the 3rd time, knowing that what He would show me tonight would cost me even more. The hike up was different this time. The weather was calmer, the wind had died down to almost nothing, and the temperature had risen to a relatively balmy 15 degrees. But there was an electricity in the air, a sense of anticipation or dread, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Every step felt weighted with significance. Every breath felt like a prayer. And those auroras, I've seen the northern lights before, but never like this, never this far south, never this intense. They filled the entire sky, pulsing and shifting, and I swear I could hear them, a faint crackling sound like distant fire. Scientists say that's impossible, that auroras don't make sound, but I heard it. I know I did. When I reached the plateau, Jesus was waiting, but He wasn't alone. The angelic presences from the night before were there again, but now they were fully visible, massive beings of light and power, arranged in a circle around Him. And in the center of that circle was something that looked like a tear in reality itself, a window into somewhere else. Heaven? The spiritual realm? I don't know. but through it, I could see things that mortal eyes aren't meant to see. Jonathan, Jesus said, and his voice was different tonight, more formal, more authoritative, carrying the weight of absolute sovereignty. What I show you tonight will be rejected by most who hear it. They will call you a false prophet. They will say you're leading people astray. They will accuse you of adding to Scripture and causing unnecessary fear. Are you still willing to speak it? I dropped to my knees in the snow. The cold soaked through my pants immediately, but I barely noticed. Yes, Lord, I'm willing. Show me what they need to know. He nodded, and one of the angels stepped forward, holding what looked like a scroll made of light. These are the 7 days, Jesus said. 7 days of warning before I return for my bride. 7 days when I will make one final attempt to wake up those who are sleeping, to mark those who are willing to pay the price, to separate the wheat from the tares. The angel unrolled the scroll, and suddenly I was seeing, no, I was experiencing the timeline. It was like being pulled into a vision so real that the physical world around me disappeared entirely. Day 1. I saw the Earth from above, like a satellite view, and I watched as simultaneously across the globe, in every time zone, at the exact same moment, the sky turned blood red, not at sunset, not at sunrise, but in the middle of the day. For exactly 7 minutes, the sun appeared to bleed, casting everything in crimson light. This is the first sign, Jesus' voice echoed through the vision. Joel prophesied it. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood, before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. But most will explain it away. Scientists will call it an atmospheric phenomenon. News anchors will interview experts who will provide rational explanations. And the church, my church, will be so busy explaining it away that they'll miss the warning. I saw churches holding emergency services, pastors preaching about how this was just a natural occurrence, how God wouldn't scare people like this, how we shouldn't be afraid. And I saw the few, the remnant, who recognized it for what it was, who fell to their knees in repentance, who began to desperately seek the mark. Day 2. The vision shifted. I saw people around the world waking up to find that they could suddenly see into the spiritual realm. Not everyone, only those who had been seeking, only those who had been praying, only those who were on the edge of receiving the mark. They could see angels and demons, could see the spiritual battles raging around them, could see the mark, or absence of it, on other people. This is the second sign, Jesus said. For 48 hours I will partially lift the veil. Those who have eyes to see will see, and what they see will either drive them to complete surrender or complete denial. I watched as a woman in a grocery store suddenly saw demons attached to certain people, whispering in their ears, influencing their choices. I watched as she saw angels standing guard over others, and on those people's foreheads she saw a mark, not physical but spiritual, glowing with soft light. And then she looked in a mirror and saw that she had no mark, and the horror on her face was unbearable. But I also saw others who, when confronted with this sight, simply refused to believe it. They convinced themselves they were hallucinating, having a mental breakdown, experiencing some kind of mass hysteria. They went to doctors, took medication, did anything to make the vision stop rather than face what they meant. Day 3. The vision shifted again, and this time I saw something that made my blood run cold. Around the world, in every nation, people began to have the same dream. Not similar dreams, the exact same dream, word for word, image for image. In the dream, they stood before Jesus, and he asked them one question: did you love me more than your own life? And in the dream, they had to answer honestly. They couldn't lie, couldn't pretend, couldn't give the Sunday school answer. The truth came out of their mouths, whether they wanted it to or not. This is the third sign, Jesus said, his voice heavy with sorrow. I will speak to them directly in the place where they cannot hide from the truth, and most will wake up and immediately begin to rationalize, to explain away what they heard, to convince themselves that it was just a dream, just their subconscious, just anxiety. I saw a pastor wake up from this dream, sweating, terrified, because in the dream he'd answered no. He'd admitted that he loved his reputation more, his church more, his success more. And I watched as he sat on the edge of his bed, wrestling with whether to repent or to dismiss it. And after an hour of internal struggle, he dismissed it. He convinced himself it was just stress, just the enemy attacking him, just his own insecurities. And he went back to sleep, and the opportunity passed. But I also saw others, a teenager, a businessman, a grandmother, who woke from that dream and immediately fell to their knees, weeping, repenting, surrendering everything. And as they did, I saw the mark begin to form on their foreheads, visible in the spiritual realm, a seal that said, "This one is mine." Day 4. The vision continued, and I saw the dead rising, not all the dead, just specific ones. Around the world, in different locations, people who had died in faith, people who had the mark, people who had lived lives of secret obedience, suddenly appeared to their loved ones, not as ghosts, not as visions, but physically present, solid, real. "This is the fourth sign," Jesus said. "I will send witnesses from the great cloud of witnesses. They will testify to the truth of what's coming. They will warn their loved ones. They will plead with them to receive the mark before it's too late." I saw a woman sitting in her living room when her grandmother, dead for 5 years, suddenly appeared, looking more alive and vibrant than she ever had in life. And the grandmother spoke with urgency. "Sweetheart, you have to listen. You have to surrender everything. The rapture is coming in 3 days and you're not ready. I can see it. You don't have the mark. Please, please, give up everything and follow him completely." And I watched as the woman's face went through a series of emotions: shock, joy, confusion, and then skepticism. "This isn't real," she said. "This is a demon. My grandmother would never try to scare me like this. God is love. He wouldn't." And the grandmother faded away, weeping. Her mission failed. But in other homes, other people listened, they believed, they acted, and the mark formed. Day 5. The vision shifted to something even more dramatic. I saw angels, visible to everyone now, not just those with spiritual sight, appearing in the sky above major cities. Massive beings of light and power, holding scrolls, blowing trumpets, declaring with voices that shook buildings, "Prepare to meet your God. The bridegroom comes. Make yourselves ready." "This is the fifth sign," Jesus said. "I will remove all doubt about the supernatural. I will make it impossible to claim that this is all natural phenomena or mass hysteria. Angels will appear, and everyone will see them, and everyone will have to make a choice about what they believe." I saw the chaos that followed: news networks trying to cover it, governments issuing statements, scientists completely baffled, and I saw the church's response, and it broke my heart. Some churches fell on their faces in repentance, finally recognizing that they'd been wrong, that they'd been teaching a watered-down gospel, that they'd been leading people astray. These churches became houses of prayer, places of desperate seeking, and many received the mark in those final hours. But other churches, most churches, doubled down on their theology. They declared that these angels were demons in disguise, that this was the great deception Jesus warned about, that true believers needed to resist this false supernatural manifestation. They held services where they bound the angels, where they declared their own righteousness, where they assured their congregations that they were fine, they were saved, they didn't need to change anything. And I saw Jesus weeping as he watched this, saw the anguish on his face as his own people rejected his final warning. Day 6. The vision showed me something that terrified me more than anything else I'd seen. On the 6th day, a mark became visible, physically visible, on people's foreheads. Not the mark of the beast, not yet, but the mark of the chosen. Those who had surrendered everything, who had died to themselves, who had chosen Jesus over comfort and reputation and life itself. They bore a mark that everyone could see. "This is the sixth sign," Jesus said. "I will make visible what has been invisible. The marked and the unmarked will be clearly distinguished. And this will cause division like nothing the world has ever seen." I saw families torn apart as some members had the mark and others didn't. I saw churches splitting as marked and unmarked tried to worship together. I saw the unmarked becoming angry, defensive, claiming that the mark was a deception, that they didn't need it, that their salvation was secure regardless. And I saw something that chilled me to my core. I saw unmarked pastors preaching to unmarked congregations, all of them assuring each other that they were fine, that this mark was optional, that God's grace covered them regardless. They created entire theological frameworks in a matter of hours to explain why they didn't need the mark, why those who had it were actually the deceived ones, why nothing needed to change. "This is the great delusion," Jesus said, his voice breaking. "They will believe the lie because they refuse to love the truth. They will convince themselves that they're right all the way up until the moment I return, and then it will be too late." Day 7. The final vision was the hardest to witness. On the 7th day, Jesus showed me a test, a final, definitive test that would prove beyond any doubt who had the mark and who didn't. Around the world, simultaneously, everyone heard a voice, not audibly but in their spirits, in the deepest part of their being, and the voice asked one simple question: Will you deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me, even unto death? And everyone had to answer, not with words, but with a choice. In that moment, they were shown what following Jesus would cost them specifically. For some, it was their career. For others, their reputation. For others, their family relationships. For others, their very lives. And I watched as people made their choices. Some, the marked ones, said yes immediately, without hesitation, without counting the cost. They surrendered everything in that moment, and the mark blazed brighter on their foreheads. But others hesitated. They calculated. They tried to negotiate. Can't I follow you and keep my job? Can't I follow you and maintain my reputation? Can't I follow you without losing my family? And as they hesitated, as they tried to find a middle way, the opportunity passed. The test was over, and they had failed. This is the seventh sign, Jesus said, and his voice was filled with finality. The last chance, the final call. After this, the door closes. After this, the wise and foolish virgins are separated. After this, I return for my bride. The vision ended abruptly, and I was back on the plateau, on my knees in the snow, with Jesus standing before me and the angels surrounding us. The aurora still danced overhead, and the terror and reality still hung in the air, but I was back in my physical body, gasping for breath, my face wet with tears that had frozen on my cheeks. Lord, I whispered, when? When do these 7 days begin? He looked at me with such love and such sorrow that I thought my heart would break. That's not for you to know. It could be tomorrow. It could be next month. It could be next year. But it's soon, Jonathan, sooner than anyone expects, and that's why you must speak this message now, while there's still time for people to prepare. But how? I asked desperately. How do people get the mark? What do they need to do? He knelt down beside me, placing his hand on my shoulder. The mark is formed through radical obedience in the secret place. It's formed by choosing me over everything else, every single day, in the moments when no one is watching. It's formed by dying to yourself. Really dying, not just saying the words. It's formed by loving me more than comfort, more than reputation, more than life itself. He stood, pulling me to my feet. Here's what you tell them. Here's the practical application. Starting today, right now, they need to establish a daily practice of death. Every morning, before they do anything else, they need to get alone with me and surrender everything. Their plans, their desires, their reputation, their comfort, their very lives. They need to say, not my will, but yours, and mean it, really mean it. And then, he continued, they need to live that surrender throughout the day. When temptation comes, they choose me. When compromise is offered, they choose me. When the easy path presents itself, they choose the hard path of obedience. Every choice, every moment, every day. That's how the mark is formed. The aurora began to fade. The angels began to disappear. The tear in reality started to close. Dawn was coming, and I could see the first light touching the eastern peaks. Tomorrow night, Jesus said, his form beginning to fade. I won't be here. Tomorrow night, you rest and prepare to share everything I've shown you. You have 4 days to get this message out, Jonathan. 4 days to warn as many as possible. And then what, Lord? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. And then the 7 days begin, he said, and his voice was already an echo. February 18th, the blood-red sun, the first sign, the countdown to the rapture. Tell them, Jonathan. Tell them all. Time is up. And then he was gone, and I was alone on the plateau as the sun rose, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink, and the aurora faded into the morning light, and everything looked normal again. But nothing was normal. Nothing would ever be normal again. I made my way down the mountain as the world woke up around me, and with every step, I felt the weight of what I'd been shown, what I'd been told to share. I knew what it would cost me. I knew how it would be received. I knew that speaking this message would likely end my career, destroy my reputation, cost me friendships and opportunities and everything I'd worked for. But I also knew I had no choice, because I'd seen the 7 days, I'd seen the signs, I'd seen the test, and I'd seen the faces of those left behind, and I wouldn't stay silent and let people miss the warnings. Listen to me. Listen carefully. If you're watching this, you have 4 days. 4 days before the 7-day countdown begins. 4 days to establish the daily practice of death, to start forming the mark through radical obedience in the secret place. Here's what you need to do, starting right now, today, this moment. First, get alone with God. Turn off your phone, turn off the TV, eliminate every distraction, get on your knees and surrender everything, your career, your relationships, your reputation, your comfort, your plans, your very life. Say, "Not my will, but yours," and mean it. Second, ask him to show you what's standing between you and complete surrender. What are you holding back? What are you unwilling to give up? What are you choosing over him? He'll show you. And when he does, you have to let it go, immediately, completely, no negotiation. Third, establish a daily practice. Every morning, before you do anything else, get alone with him and die to yourself again. Surrender everything again, because the mark isn't formed in one moment. It's formed through daily, repeated, consistent choice to put him first. Fourth, live it out. When temptation comes today, choose him. When compromise is offered, choose him. When the easy path presents itself, choose the hard path of obedience. Every choice, every moment, every day, you have 4 days. 4 days before February 18th, 4 days before the blood red sun, 4 days before the 7-day countdown begins. Comment below right now, "I surrender everything," if you're committing to this daily practice starting today, not tomorrow, today, right now. Tomorrow night, I'll post part 4, the final part, where I'll give you the complete 30-minute daily challenge, the specific steps to form the mark, and the final warning about what's coming. But you can't wait until tomorrow to start. You have to start today, because time is running out, the 7 days are coming, and most of the church is still asleep. This is Jonathan Roumie, and I'm speaking to you from the mountain where Jesus revealed the timeline. 4 days. That's all we have. What will you do with them? It's February 15th, 2026, and I'm recording this at 2 p.m. from my home, looking out at those same mountains where Jesus met me for 3 consecutive nights, and I can still see that plateau in the distance, that sacred place where everything changed, where the veil was pulled back and I saw what's coming. I didn't go up there last night. He told me not to. He told me to rest, to prepare, to get ready to deliver this final message. And as I sit here now, with 3 days left before February 18th, before the blood red sun, before the 7-day countdown begins, I feel the weight of what I'm about to share pressing down on me like a physical force. Let me be direct with you. I've lost everything this week. Yesterday, my agent called. The chosen production team received hundreds of complaints about these videos. There are petitions circulating online demanding my removal from the show. Major Christian networks have blacklisted me. Publishers have canceled book deals. Speaking engagements for the next 6 months, gone. Ministry partnerships I've built over years, dissolved. My phone has been ringing constantly with well-meaning friends and advisors, all saying the same thing. "Jonathan, just take the videos down, just apologize, just say you were going through something, that you didn't mean it the way it sounded. You can recover from this, but you have to act now." And I'll be honest with you, at 51 years old, single, with no family to fall back on, watching my career implode in real time, I've been tempted. I've sat here with my finger hovering over the delete button, thinking about how easy it would be to make this all go away, to go back to the comfortable version of Christianity that everyone accepts, that fills stadiums and sells books and keeps the money flowing. But then I remember his face. I remember his tears. I remember the vision of those left behind, and I remember what he told me on that third night. The mark is formed by choosing me over everything else, especially when it costs you everything. So here I am. I've made my choice. I've taken up my cross. And now I'm going to give you the practical tools you need to make the same choice, to form the mark, to be ready for what's coming in 3 days. But first, I need to address something. The comments on the previous 3 videos have been intense. Thousands of you have written, "I'm marked. I choose the secret place. I surrender everything." Your testimonies have brought me to tears. Your hunger for truth, your willingness to embrace the hard message, your desperation to be ready. It's exactly what Jesus is looking for. But there have also been the critics, and I need to address them directly, because their objections are the same objections that will be raised during the 7 days, the same rationalizations that will keep people from receiving the mark. This is works-based salvation, they say. You're teaching that we have to earn our way to heaven. What about grace? What about faith alone? Let me be crystal clear. I am not teaching works-based salvation. I am teaching what Jesus himself taught, that genuine faith produces genuine obedience, that real love for Christ manifests in radical surrender, that saving faith is not just intellectual agreement, but complete life transformation. James said it. Faith without works is dead. Jesus said it. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father. This isn't about earning salvation. It's about proving that your salvation is real. You're causing fear and division, others say. Jesus came to bring peace, not a sword. You're tearing apart the body of Christ. Jesus himself said, "Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." He said he would divide families, that following him would cost us everything. The gospel has always been divisive because it demands a response. Total surrender or total rejection. There's no middle ground, no comfortable compromise, and yes, that causes division. But it's the division between truth and lies, between genuine faith and comfortable religion, between those who love him more than life and those who love the world more than him. You're setting dates, some have accused. You're predicting the rapture. Jesus said no one knows the day or hour. I am not setting a date for the rapture. I'm sharing what Jesus showed me, that 7 days before he returns, he will send specific warnings. I don't know when those 7 days will begin. He told me it starts February 18th, but he didn't tell me what year. It could be 2026. It could be later. But he was clear that it's soon, that time is short, that we need to be ready now. And even if I'm wrong about the specific date, even if February 18th comes and goes without the blood-red sun, the message remains the same. Are you ready? Do you have the mark? Are you living in radical obedience in the secret place? Now let me give you the practical application. Let me give you the 30-minute daily challenge that will form the mark, that will prepare you for what's coming, that will ensure you're ready when Jesus returns. The 30-minute daily challenge. This isn't optional. This isn't a suggestion for the super spiritual. This is the minimum requirement for forming the mark. Jesus was clear about this. The mark is formed in the secret place through daily, consistent, radical obedience when no one is watching. Here's how it works. Minutes 1:10. The death. Every morning before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you have coffee, before you start your day, you get alone with God and you die. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, really die. Get on your knees, close your eyes, and systematically surrender everything. Lord, I surrender my career to you. If following you costs me my job, I choose you. Lord, I surrender my reputation to you. If obeying you makes me look foolish, I choose you. Lord, I surrender my relationships to you. If following you costs me friendships or family, I choose you. Lord, I surrender my comfort to you. If obeying you requires sacrifice and suffering, I choose you. Lord, I surrender my very life to you. If following you leads to death, I choose you. Go through every area of your life, finances, health, plans, desires, dreams, and surrender them all. Hold nothing back. Keep nothing in reserve. Die completely. And here's the key. You have to mean it. You can't just say the words. You have to genuinely release your grip on everything you're surrendering. You have to be willing to actually lose it if that's what obedience requires. Minutes 11 to 20. The listening. After you've died, after you've surrendered everything, sit in silence and listen. Don't pray. Don't read. Don't do anything. Just listen. Ask him one question. Lord, what are you asking me to do today that will cost me something? And then wait. Wait in the silence. Wait in the discomfort. Wait until you hear his voice. He will speak. Maybe not audibly, but you'll know. You'll sense it in your spirit. He'll bring something to mind, a conversation you need to have, a compromise you need to end, a sin you need to confess, a person you need to forgive, a sacrifice you need to make, and it will cost you something. That's how you know it's really him. The enemy offers the easy path, the flesh offers the comfortable path, but Jesus offers the costly path, the narrow path, the path that requires death to self. Write down what he tells you. Be specific. Don't spiritualize it or soften it. Write exactly what he's asking you to do. Minutes 21 to 30, the commitment. Take what he told you and commit to doing it today, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, today. Pray this prayer. Lord, by your grace and in your strength, I will obey what you've told me today, no matter what it costs me. I will not negotiate. I will not compromise. I will not delay. I will do it, and I will do it for an audience of one, you alone, not for recognition, not for applause, not for reward, but simply because you asked and I love you more than I love my own life. Then spend the remaining minutes preparing yourself mentally and spiritually for the cost of obedience. Visualize yourself doing what he asked. Anticipate the resistance you'll face from others, from circumstances, from your own flesh. Decide now that you'll obey regardless. The daily execution. Here's where most people fail. They do the 30-minute challenge, they hear from God, they make the commitment, and then they don't follow through. They get busy, they get distracted, they rationalize, they compromise. But the mark is not formed by hearing, it's formed by doing. James said, be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. So throughout your day, you execute, you do what he told you to do, no matter what it costs. And every time you're tempted to compromise, every time the easy path presents itself, you remember your morning commitment. You remember that you died. You remember that you chose him over everything else. And here's what will happen. As you do this day after day, week after week, the mark will begin to form. It's not instantaneous. It's not a one-time decision. It's the cumulative effect of 1,000 small deaths, 1,000 costly obediences, 1,000 choices to put him first when no one is watching. The specific steps for the next 3 days. We have 3 days before February 18th, 3 days before the 7-day countdown potentially begins. Here's what you need to do. Today, February 15th. Do the 30-minute challenge this afternoon. Don't wait until tomorrow morning. Start now. And when he tells you what to do today, do it before you go to bed tonight. No delays, no excuses. Then go through your life and identify the 3 biggest things you're holding back from God, the 3 areas where you're still trying to maintain control, where you're still choosing comfort over obedience, where you're still loving something more than you love him. Write them down. Be brutally honest. Tomorrow, February 16th, do the 30-minute challenge first thing in the morning, and during your listening time, specifically ask him about those 3 things you identified yesterday. Ask him what he wants you to do about them. He will tell you, and it will be costly. It might be ending a relationship. It might be quitting a job. It might be confessing a secret sin. It might be giving away money you were saving. It might be something that terrifies you. Do it anyway. Do it tomorrow. All 3 things. Don't spread them out. Don't ease into it. Rip off the Band-Aid. Die completely. February 17th. Do the 30-minute challenge again, and this time, ask him the most important question. Lord, do I have the mark? Am I ready? Is there anything else standing between me and complete surrender? Listen carefully to his answer. If he shows you something else, deal with it immediately. If he gives you peace, thank him and commit to maintaining your daily practice of death no matter what comes. Then prepare yourself mentally and spiritually for February 18th. Whether the blood-red sun appears or not, whether the 7 days begin or not, you need to be ready. You need to be living in such radical obedience, such complete surrender, such total death to self that whenever he returns, tomorrow or 10 years from now, you're ready. The urgent deadline. Here's what I need you to understand. We are out of time for comfortable Christianity. We are out of time for lukewarm commitment. We are out of time for playing church while living for ourselves. Jesus is returning soon, maybe in 7 days, maybe in 7 months, maybe in 7 years, but soon. And when he returns, he's not coming for people who said a prayer once and then lived however they wanted. He's not coming for people who attended church and had correct theology, but never actually surrendered their lives. He's not coming for people who love the idea of Jesus, but not the reality of what following him costs. He's coming for a bride who made herself ready. He's coming for those who have the mark formed through daily death, through costly obedience, through choosing him over everything else in the secret place where no one is watching. I'm giving you a deadline, March 17th, 2026, 30 days from now. 30 days to establish this daily practice, to form the mark, to prove that your faith is real. Why 30 days? Because that's how long it takes to form a habit, to establish a pattern, to transform a decision into a lifestyle. If you can do the 30-minute challenge every single day for 30 days, if you can live in radical obedience for 30 days, if you can choose him over everything else for 30 days, then you'll be ready. The mark will be forming. Your life will be transforming. But if you can't do it for 30 days, if you give up after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then you need to seriously question whether your faith is real. Because if you can't choose him over comfort for 30 days, when you know what's at stake, how will you choose him when the real test comes? How will you stand firm during the 7 days? How will you pass the final test on day 7 when he asks, will you deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me, even unto death? The multiple calls to action. I need you to do several things right now before you close this video. First, comment below with these exact words. I commit to the 30-day challenge. Not, I'll try. Not, I hope to. But I commit. Make it public. Make it real. Make it binding. Second, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'll be posting updates over the next 30 days, sharing testimonies from others who are doing the challenge, providing encouragement and accountability. You need this community. You need this support. Third, share this video. I know that's risky. I know it might cost you friendships or reputation, but if you really believe what I've shared, if you really believe the 7 days are coming, if you really believe people need to be warned, then you have a responsibility to share it. Don't let people you love miss the warning because you were too afraid of what they might think. Fourth, get alone with God right now, as soon as this video ends, and do the 30-minute challenge. Don't wait. Don't delay. Don't tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow. Do it now. Fifth, find an accountability partner. Someone who will check in with you daily, who will ask if you did the challenge, who will hold you to your commitment. This can't be a solo journey. We need each other. The honest viewer comments. I want to hear from you honestly, not the spiritual sounding comments, not the amen and preach it responses. I want real, honest feedback. Are you scared? Tell me. Are you skeptical? Tell me. Are you angry at this message? Tell me. Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me why. Have you tried to do this and failed? Tell me what happened. Are you all in, ready to pay whatever it costs? Tell me. I read every comment. I pray over every comment. And I want to know where you really are, because only when we're honest about our struggles can we actually overcome them. The final emphasis, you are marked. Here's what I need you to understand. The fact that you've watched all 4 parts of this series, the fact that you've made it to this point in this final video, the fact that something in your spirit is resonating with this message, even if your mind is resisting it, that's not an accident. You've been marked. Not with the final mark yet, not with the seal that guarantees you'll be raptured, but with a calling. You've been marked as someone who can hear truth, who can handle the hard message, who has the potential to be part of the remnant. But potential isn't enough. Calling isn't enough. You have to respond. You have to act. You have to choose. And you have to choose now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when it's more convenient. Now. Because in 3 days, the 7-day countdown may begin. In 3 days, the blood-red sun may appear. In 3 days, the final warnings may start. And if you're not ready, if you haven't been forming the mark through daily death and radical obedience, you may not have time to catch up. The warning and the hope. I want to end with both warning and hope, because that's how Jesus ended each of our encounters on that mountain. The warning, most of the church will miss this. Most believers will be left behind. Not because God is cruel, not because grace isn't sufficient, but because they refused to let their faith cost them anything. They wanted Jesus as Savior, but not as Lord. They wanted heaven, but not holiness. They wanted the crown, but not the cross. Don't be like them. Don't be part of the majority that hears this message and dismisses it, that feels convicted for a moment, and then goes back to comfortable Christianity, that knows the truth but refuses to act on it. But here's the hope. It's not too late. If you're hearing this message, if you're feeling the conviction, if you're willing to respond, there's still time. 3 days before the countdown, 30 days to form the habit, however long until Jesus actually returns. There's still time to get the mark, to make yourself ready, to become the kind of person who can stand in his presence without being consumed. The door is still open. The invitation is still extended. The grace is still available. But you have to walk through that door. You have to accept that invitation. You have to receive that grace by responding with radical obedience. The closing image. I'm looking out my window right now at that alpine plateau where Jesus met me. From here, it looks peaceful, beautiful, serene. The snow is glowing in the afternoon sun. The sky is clear and blue. Everything looks normal. But I know what happened up there. I know what I saw. I know what he told me. And I know that in 3 days, that same sky might turn blood red, and the 7-day countdown might begin, and everything will change forever. That plateau represents the secret place, the place where you meet with God alone, where no one else can go, where the mark is formed. It's high and hard to reach. It requires effort and sacrifice to get there. The air is thin and the conditions are harsh. But it's where he meets you. It's where transformation happens. It's where you die to yourself and come alive to him. You have your own plateau, your own secret place, your own location where you can get alone with God, away from distractions and demands and the comfortable routines of life. Maybe it's a physical place, a room in your house, a spot in nature, a quiet corner somewhere. Maybe it's just a posture of heart, a willingness to shut out everything else and focus solely on him. Wherever it is, you need to go there, today, now. And you need to keep going there every day for the next 30 days, for the next 30 years, for the rest of your life, because that's where the mark is formed. That's where you become ready. That's where you prove that your love for him is real. The final words. This is Jonathan Roumie, and I've shared everything Jesus told me to share. I've held nothing back. I've softened nothing. I've risked everything to deliver this message. Now it's your turn. Now you have to decide. Now you have to act. 3 days until February 18th. 30 days to form the habit. Unknown time until Jesus returns. What will you do with the time you have left? Will you go back to comfortable Christianity, hoping that your past prayer and church attendance are enough? Or will you climb your mountain, enter your secret place, die to yourself daily, and form the mark through radical obedience? The choice is yours, but you have to make it now. Comment below. I commit to the 30-day challenge. Share this video with everyone you love, and then get alone with God and begin. The mountain is calling you higher. The secret place is waiting. The mark is ready to be formed, and the clock is ticking. I'll see you on the other side, either in the rapture or in the testimonies you share over the next 30 days as God transforms your life through this daily practice of death. May you be found ready when He returns. May you have the mark. May you be part of the bride who made herself ready. This is Jonathan Roumie, signing off from the shadow of the mountain where everything changed. Go now. Die now. Obey now. Time is up.